Ladies and gentlemen, we'll now move into the very first keynote address by Dr. Chandrasekhar Sripada. I'd like to introduce him to you. Dr. Sripada Chandrasekhar, or Chandra as he's affectionately known, is the head of HR, IBM India, South Asia, based out of Bangalore, and is also on the board of IBM India and on the advisory board of the Indian School of Business, Hyderabad. He's the executive sponsor of gender and diversity initiatives and leads the university relations of IBM in South Asia. Dr. Sripada Chandrasekhar has an MBA from the Leeds Business School and a PhD in organizational behavior and brings over 3 decades of experience. He's a certified executive coach accredited by the International Coach Federation. He's known for his public speaking, writing, and thought leadership. His other interests include philosophy and study of civilizations. Enabling the girl child, especially the poor, is another cause that Chandra espouses. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to have him here this morning. I'd like to request all of you to please give him a big round of applause as we welcome him to this session. I'd like to request Mr. P.S. Ravindranath to welcome Dr. Sripada Chandrasekhar to this event with a bouquet. And thank you for being here with us.
Thank you very much for having asked me, and it's not easy to do what is called a panoramic view of audience. You know, you keep looking from here to here, 1100 people. The speech itself can become one of the daunting projects that I have ever handled. As I actually came in and realized that I'm in a similar plight that a friend of mine and perhaps millions of Indian students, and many of you will relate to this, have passed through and have gone through anxieties. In my young days, there was only one way, and I'm very glad to know that we continue to be very good at that system, which is called beating the exam system. And one of the systems on which most classic Indian students are brought up with almost a natural ease to be able to predict the exam, make it very, very manageable by understanding what questions will come, what questions will not come, deciding what to study, what not to study. And so I thought with my generation it was over, but my daughter grew up, she also continued to do this, and she told me, why are you not reading this? She says, this is not in the portion, because I don't have to read it because the exam will not ask it. So we are smart not about studies, but about how to manage the exam. You know, that is, so something similar happens when we manage projects. And we will talk about that, but having come to the experience, so there was this young person who, in this whole method of classical prediction, was told, of course without any leak of question paper, very ethically, that this time he should expect an essay on football match. So he very diligently prepared a wonderful essay on football match. And you know, he was very good, and as most of us are, we are able to remember long paragraphs, sentences, and reproduce them just like that. So India's claim to fame, coming there, he was ready, and there was the examination, and there was the question paper. And as would happen to me today, as would happen to many of you as you manage your projects, all questions came except that one. There was no question, there was no essay on football match. The essay that finally he had to choose was on a topic called man's journey to moon, because that was the only topic that was available. So using his brilliance, he did exactly what I'm going to do, and that is, he wrote man went to moon, played football. And wrote about the football match and said man came back from the moon. So in almost philosophically, I have grown up to believe that life itself is a project on this earth. And that if we imbibe the spirit and the character of the classical project manager who almost sees life as a project which is a beginning and an end, a purpose and a mission, and a set of resources and therefore a certain way of delivering it, it becomes not a tool or a technique or a certification, but it becomes a way of life. And having lived life like that, my thoughts go beyond the mechanics of project management and of companies, corporations. But when organizers call you and you deliver what are called keynote speeches, you are given a topic about which you have no choice. So someone has given me a topic, says reinventing the modern corporation. I'm thankful to him because he allowed me to use that to tell you some stories. And so I will use the charts there, but often with your permission and all those organizers with whose permission I have brought these charts, I'll keep deviating more to share my experience as I manage the project called My Life. And I will probably be of some value to you as I share my perspectives. I'm always amazed at our ability to assemble at places like this. I cannot believe I go to so many conferences and all auditoriums are full. So I'm wondering how much of appetite we all have, hopefully to learn. And there must be some other reasons why we are like this and we are all together congregating all the time. You call any conference, you never find, difficulty. Many of the product launches, etc. have difficulty, but conferences seem to have not much difficulty. They always are enough subscribed, irrespective of troubled times, economic, double dip recession and all that. So that only shows the power of, coming together. And if only we can synergize it for more purposes, then it will be useful. So let me see how I can provoke you a little bit to sort of make use of this great power of coming together. So the charts that are going to be there are going to talk about how IBM as a company, I mean that's a nice context, but please don't misunderstand me. I'm not a salesman for IBM here, nor do I intend to be, nor does the company need such a sale. The purpose is to use the experience of this 100-year-old company to check how, when you do something more continuously, something that is built to last, what do you learn from that? And along with that, of course, we will learn some of the other interesting things which I guess are of more immediate concern to us. So I would largely, on a few slides, concentrate on the experience of IBM in reinventing itself, and as it reinvented itself through history over 100 years, how has it contributed to the creation of a modern corporation and its continual renewal, such that the corporation lasts the vicissitudes of time and stands as a testimony to human ingenuity, deep commitment of leadership, of institution building, which creates an enduring phenomenon called a corporation that lasts for 100 years. And these are not easy things to accomplish. Therefore, there is certainly some merit in understanding the case study of IBM, if you like, and as to how has it done this. The 100 years that we have today, this year is the 100th year of IBM. And in IT companies, some time back, and there are still attempts, and given a choice, many would do it. In more recent years, the younger generation actually grows, in my view, on a phenomenon called build to sell, not build to last. In fact, one of the most greatest thing that beginning of 2000 and in the last decade, one of the secret ambitions of a lot of youngsters, like they say in the film of Zindagi Na Milega Dubara, those who have seen it, is to somehow make a killing by 40 and then play golf forever. So there is no need to, as though it is easy to live after that just by playing golf, Many young people engaged in jobs, in businesses, in ventures, and in the famous spirit of Silicon Valley, believe that the best thing to do in life is to create a company milk it, feed it like the cows or sheep are fed in Australia, make it ready for a kill, and so sell it and move on with that huge kitty. Now this is, some of them are described famously as serial entrepreneurs. So they keep building companies, keep selling them, keep building companies, keep selling them. Now this message about 100-year-old company and staying to build something that is enduring is not for them. Because we are not discussing the issue of serial entrepreneurship. That has its own place in human history. There are certain people excited by that fact of moving on from one to one. But then this is the irony, and this is the in a way a philosophical dilemma of projects, is that they have an end and a beginning, and therefore are they impermanent. But interestingly, as the task of managing a project is time bound, the results of the project is timeless. And those project managers who understand that a Namma Metra which is struggling to be built would someday be built to last for another 100 years, would perhaps build it the way it could last for 100 years. Or else, if there was a way of saying, we build a metro and 3 years time we go IPO, 5 years time we put a valuation, and 10 years time we sell the metro and build a new metro. Now, if we take that kind of a view, we will build a lot of projects, but we will not build anything that is enduring, anything that is timeless. And probably mankind is struggling with this whole thing of how do we bring in a serious attention to something as though it has to end tomorrow, which it is, because no project is endless in its resources or times. It is bound by a schedule, and there is a chart which tells you something is critical on the line and you better handle it, etc. So you handle it, but in that rush of handling it, handling the critical path and handling the techniques and handling the project to an immediate satisfaction of some of the specifications which you have received, how do you create something that is enduring, that will last beyond you and that project? I guess is a thing that need to inform all the minds of all of us who are assembled here. And IBM as a company, and thanks to its visionary founders, has never viewed itself as just as another project of a company, but as an institution that lasts to partner society's journey, mankind's journey in history, and continue to contribute in both thought and action leadership to not just do business, but to transform societies. And it is in that spirit that this company has been built, and companies of those great underlying spirit tend to last. And when they last, they come into statistic like this. That is, if you looked at the list of Fortune 500 companies in 1962, you would find some names at the top, about 25 names, and you see the same list today, you will find only 4 of them lasting. Most of them are no more there. And so, interestingly, the desire to last, the desire to work for the long term, the desire to do a project not for today's gain, but for tomorrow's benefit, to do something that will make you immortal in the very act of being finite, is the spirit that informs the best of us, and that has informed the spirit of IBM, and that is why it has lasted for so many decades. Because if you think long term, you will manage for the long term. If you manage for the long term, you will live for the long term. And mind you, I'm not using the word you will survive for the long term. You will live for the long term if you manage for the long term, because you have to think for the long term. And that is the issue. And we all live as though there is no long term. I'm very particularly disturbed by a lot of the young generation, and I continue on to harp on this, who seem to think that there is no life beyond 40. That everything has to be achieved immediately tomorrow. My flat, my car, my second wife. How do you do this? How are you? Why are you in a rush? It's okay to marry even at 80, as we read it in newspapers. So don't worry. There is a lot of time. Nothing happens after 40. There will be another 40. Life care has increased. people can easily aspire to live in spite of the dirt and filth in our roads. Believe me, we all are living longer than ever before. So we will live for 65, 75, 85. And what will you do if you retire at 40? Why is this pressure to become CEO at 27? Why are we doing this to ourselves? Look at your media, and you're all under that pressure. So if this pressure of short-termism continues, and if we do not know how to give each of the project its due time, we would all be crushed under a false need to be urgent. And if I have seen my life about project management, what project managers I have lived with, what they struggle with, is the inability to negotiate for an appropriate time. Neither too late, not too short, but just the right time to complete something. God said, you must take 9 months to deliver a child. I have gone through many, many major projects in life, huge ones. Some things like, for example, commissioning of a blast furnace in a steel plant. Now, these kind of projects, they take years, like our Namma Metra. I'm not building any excuse for the delays that it is going through, but I'm just saying we need to put the right lens and filters when we look at it, and project managers have to be allowed the breathing time to schedule, and provide the resources and the plan in the right way. So I know of people, I know of leaders, business leaders, who then simply do like in the old days, I mean young days, used to have this arithmetic thing that if one man traveled 5 kilometers in so many days, how many men will travel it in half a day? So sometimes we apply such things to project management. And we say that is there a way to shorten it? But in that process, are we compromising enduring results? And are we therefore going to be not in those kind of statistics that last, but in the kind of statistics that nobody even counts? So that is the spirit of IBM, and I want to continue on that and say, what did we learn as we built this company? And it's not me who built it. Great leaders, Mr. Watson and lots of others that followed, and including the current chairman, are engaged in a task that is really institution building. And as they did it, as we look back on the history, as we engage with historians, corporate historians and management thinkers, as we reflect on what happened, there are 3 lessons that stand out. Lesson 1 is that if you want to be a corporation that lasts, you better learn to adapt to the changing global economy. And I guess that was Dr. Kalam's essential message. Somebody told me when I was coming here yesterday, I was not there, but that adapting, changing, being alive to what is required today as different from yesterday is the way to keep yourself renewed. I guess IBM learned it through the way. Adapting to the technology changes, because ours is a technology company. We both respond to, but more importantly, create technology and technology changes. So we just don't respond to technology changes, but we actually cause them. And so ours is a very unique responsibility in the dialectic with technology, if you like, in the sense that we both cause and create. And then, of course, even as you change, and this is the beauty, this is what I was saying, that the ability to manage the apparent contradiction of a time-bound project with timeless significance, similarly, adapting, changing, flexible company with a core retained value system that does not change. And this is our key learning, that it is possible to change without changing the basics, the fundamentals, the vitals, the cultural values, the DNA. It's possible to do that. So adaptation is not metamorphosis. It is not transformation beyond recognition. It is about flexibly responding to changes while retaining the core that has brought you this far. This is applicable to human beings, it's applicable to companies, should be applicable to projects. So I'll elaborate a little bit how we changed with the world and adapted to building corporation in 3 different characteristics. There are 3 waves that we went through. In the first wave, we were international company. And this is the kind of change that happens to many companies. You may not relate it today. If you work for a small company, or you're just a startup, or your company is just struggling, or you are working for an organization that does not have an international vision, it's fine. But interestingly, as I finish the journey, you will realize that this is almost the inevitable journey for anything, any company or organization that lasts for a long time. And particularly in today's world, where being global is a must. I mean, the world is indeed flat. So being global at that time meant what? It only meant that you have operations in different parts of the world. So you kind of really set up offices, which many of the companies in India who are called international are today. They are in that stage. They have offices in different parts of the country, but they don't become global just because they have foreign presence. And do not mistake that. So for example, if you have companies which has foreign presence, you don't become essentially global. You just have foreign presence. And there is a big difference between being global and being just present or internationally visiting. The multinational is the next stage in which we grow, companies grow. In this model, what happens, the company creates its own mini offices and its own versions in different parts of the world. They work because the international regulations, trade, allows them or does not allow them. So they take benefit of that. And they work largely governed by those frameworks which the societies, countries, legislations, laws, regulations, agreements create. It is still not global enough because it does not leverage the true global character of a seamless, borderless world. And in its third phase, a company actually becomes what I call the globally, integrated enterprise. The globally integrated enterprise is what IBM is becoming. It is not yet a popular word in management literature. But I can assure you that in 20 years' time, students all over the world, including our children, will be reading about how to build globally integrated enterprises. And they would be learning lessons from the trials and the tries of IBM and companies like that. We will not be alone, hopefully, in this journey. As you build a globally integrated enterprise, you become strangely country neutral. You are not concerned about geography or culture. You are concerned about the more vital aspects of the economic organization and leverage resources. There is a simple philosophy that I articulate to myself whenever I want to prepare my mind to be truly global. And the philosophy is buy where it is cheap, sell where it is expensive. So you make more money, isn't it? So if companies are about making profits, then if best of components are made in China, make it. But if they are sold in America and you get better profit, sell it and become the apple of the eye, as they say. Because you just master this art of assembling made in Taiwan, sold in America. So, and in some other places where we have provided that cost advantage, the world has suddenly Bangalored. And they have chosen to do where it is hopefully inexpensive, because we don't seem to keep it very inexpensive. We are growing every day. Everyone is worried about next person's salary. So we will clearly outbeat the world in our competitiveness. And so when we do that, of course, we might lose another race. But for the present, we certainly have the advantage. And we can be the place where something is made and sold somewhere else, and which is happening, as you can know. As you do that, you leverage the global principles. So if services is better done in some countries, do services there. If manufacturing is better done in some countries, do that. If markets are going in Africa, go there. Do flexibly take advantage of the emerging, changing markets, consumers, demand of the world by flexibly deploying your resources across countries, across nations, across regulations. As you do that, you become a globally integrated enterprise. And one of the prices you pay for that is that you very, very strongly deploy global processes all over the world. So you do not select people differently in India and then in Japan. You do not appraise people differently. You do not rate people differently. You do not manage projects differently. Chalta hai in India, 3 hours late, okay, customer call cannot be attended, dashboard not sent, I do not understand, email not responded, technique not used, documentation not done, product codes not disappeared. We know what it is. There is an India way of managing projects, but hopefully as we globally integrate, we may not, because interestingly the India way of managing project is till it is managed, nobody knows it can be managed. All the time the struggle I have is that we are told what is happening. My colleagues all over the world are extremely worried that something will not be delivered at 12 o'clock noon China time. But believe me, till 11:40 it was not ready. Between 11:40 and 12 it is ready. Because the IIT entrance examination can be passed by not studying the whole year, but for the last 1 week. This is a unique ability, but can we make it a global ability? I do not know. So if we do not, if we cannot, we might not. If we don't want to do that, we must adopt global ways of delivering. In some companies, they're called global delivery frameworks, difficult ones. Somebody will come with an argument, why do you want less head count? We are full of head count. I said, you have lot of count, but where is the head? So you have got to understand that there are global ways of doing things, and if you want to be international and truly global, you got to adopt them. So having said that, that is the way globally integrated enterprises are built. Technology changes, and leaders both respond to that change and cause that change. And this is what I want you to understand. Technological change is not about just responding to change. A whole nation which simply responds to the changes that are happening. So iPad comes, we use it. Something else comes, we use it. Mobile phone comes, we use it. Is okay. We will be a nation of users. But there could be a nation of creators. There is a huge difference between that. And I'm particularly drawing your attention because at least in the next generation, if we can encourage people not just to respond but to create, and just be not great master users, but to be inventors and creators. And that's where I guess the next wave of success has to come from. And look at the history of IBM. When man felt that there should be something as a desktop, he can't have a mainframe machine like this, you know, from this end to that end and struggle with it, looking at what it is. You got to have something more personal. The personal computer came, and IBM created it. When people were going chaotic, today can you imagine, I always wonder, any day that I go to make my trip and book my ticket for a train, I just go back 20 years or 15 years, not so long, and think of how early in the morning at 4 o'clock I used to stand in a railway queue, in a railway reservation office, and face touts and go all the way patiently just to be told by the counter clerk that you cannot travel. Now, this whole thing has changed, isn't it? And when this change happens, we don't notice. Like when the electricity is working, we don't notice. If it goes away, we'll notice. Like that. But imagine the effort that must have gone to create an order out of world's airline systems, which can be as chaotic as you can imagine. And then imagine a company that is leading the thought process of building that. Imagine Apollo mission, and we are talking of projects. Yesterday you met some great project leaders of this country who have built similar missions which are not projects, they are missions, that's the word, and that's the difference. It's an assembly of several projects with a deep sense of enduring significance, and that's what makes it a mission, and not just a project. And so that is the mission in which IBM participates and does varieties of things. You will never associate IBM with laser surgery. But companies like IBM spend time on research. We spend $6 billion a year in research alone. And when you are on the phone, and that is incidentally just the research investment of IBM is more than the revenues of many of the well-known companies in this country. And so you need to build those companies, but will come from the fact of developing thinking for the future. Remember my initial statement, managing for the long term. So these are the kind of things we did. But as we did that, and this is where I want to spend a little more time and close this, it is very easy to forget your character as you change. It's very easy. For example, several times I have struggled to see if I can live easily by dyeing my hair. And I didn't like it. Anytime I dyed my hair, I didn't look, particularly in my own eyes, any younger. So I thought, what is the temptation? Why should I do it? I'm not saying all of you stop dyeing your hair. But I'm saying, don't do it because everyone else is doing it. My adaptation to change, my ability to use iPad, my ability to give talks like this, my ability to become an HR leader, my ability to do the next generation thing, is no way minimized, prevented or harmed by the fact that I don't dye my hair. But people, as my wife reminds me of a proverb from my language, that by putting stripes, a cat cannot become a leopard. Or whatever, whichever way that proverb goes in any other language, you cannot put wrong stripes on your body. Look at your DNA, look at your character, build a core character. In the initial years, for quite some time, a core character can emerge. At that time, focus on it, build that character. And companies also have characters, and they retain that character even as they change. So what are the features that define the character of this company called IBM? Pioneer intellectual capital that creates new value. Now you got to define this way. And many of the companies may not have this aspiration. I mean, I'm not saying they must have, but I'm saying this is one example. If you want to have this aspiration, this helps you become a little more, timeless. And it's true for individuals. If at each stage and age of your life, you are able to create intellectual capital for yourself, which creates some new value for the people who are with you, then you are relevant, you are timeless, you are little more towards, beyond temporariness and impermanence. And that is the beauty. Apply science to the challenges of business and society, not just to the matters of profit, which that will flow. If you really apply science to the matters of business and society, of course profits will flow, because people will pay for whatever transforms their life. And it is interesting that you need to find market, not in your product, but in the need of your customer. And that is the beauty. And be global. And this is the most difficult of all. We all who speak English and travel abroad and bring some French wine, if the customs allows, we all believe we have become global. So by putting foreign trappings, we don't become global. And nobody in the world anywhere is as global as anybody should be. Just because you are born or raised in the United States or France or Japan, you are no more global than you are in India. Being global is not a prerogative of a skin or a color or a part of geography in this world. Being global is a mindset, it's an ability, it's a character, it's a set of ideas, it's a set of beliefs, it's a set of capabilities that you have to cultivate. And you have the same privilege to be global as anybody else of anywhere in the world. And we are all running at least that one race equally. That is one race where we are all equal. We have the same starting line. With my colleagues anywhere in the world, I say this, that we are all in the same starting line to run being global, and it is an opportunity that is beckoning humanity for building a seamless world that is borderless and is able to move talent, resources across the globe and manage and conserve the resources for the future of this planet is the real historic invitation that we have. And in our personal lives, we have capacity to join that mainstream and that invitation. And please think about what I'm saying. Therefore, one of the interesting features that will actually essentially qualify you is the ability to collaborate. As you collaborate, as you don't want to become just the champion for your own little project and be seen as the prima donna who completed this in time or in the budget, but as somebody who has collaborated with 100 other things that are happening in the organization or in the society, you qualify yourself to rise beyond your street, city, state, country, and the world. And that is the opportunity that is equally available to all of us. And in doing so, you and I make the world a better place. And that is why in what you do, in this wonderful thing that as a profession that all of us do as project managers, we have this unique opportunity which perhaps no one else has, to engage with timely and the timeless together and at the same time. With our focus, like the organizers told me, and I must have cheated them a bit by talking a little too long, that we want to be extremely finicky about time. It's absolutely important to be about time on projects. It's equally important to manage that project to create timeless contributions. And in this journey, I hope you will all be successful and you will join me. Thank you very much.
So I'd like to thank you very much indeed for that presentation. We'd like to present you with a small token of our appreciation. Thank you very much indeed.